story goes something like this, right? You work in an organization, could be large, could be medium, could be small. So your organization has a lot of units, right? You could be part of department or unit A, there could be several other units as well. So what are the common things or the common issues or the common thoughts that you have? So the first thing is, hey, I want to have this solution implemented, or I have this problem. Is it available already within my organization? So for most of us, the answer is usually no, because we are not really aware what is happening within our organization as well. It's easy to Google rather than finding the information within the organization. I hope most of you will agree with me on that. Second thing, I may not be as talented to be an open source contributor, but is there a way where I can safely contribute within the realms of my organization to hone my skills so that I can get into the next stage of actually contributing to the open source? I'm sure that's also a common wish that most of the developers have, right? And the third one, is there a way that I can make my ecosystem in my firm such that if I have a POC or I have a thought in mind which I want to get executed, is there a way that I can just really do it fast without having to worrying about all the configurations, setup, deployments, all the boilerplate stuff that we usually focus our energy on? Is there a way that I can just have an infrastructure where I just have all the facilities given to me, all the best practices given to me, and all I need to bother is write the business logic, write the thing that I want to get done and be done with it. So that's the story for which I'm going to speak today. I hope most of you would be resonating with me on these points. And by the way, I'm Laxminarayan. I have 12 years of experience in software development and architecture. I work at Siemens Advanta, India. And along with me, I have my colleague Akash Sonune, who is a lead software engineer, who are having 7+ years of experience. And today the topic is, how can we embrace inner sourcing towards open sourcing? So this is a highlight of the agenda that we will be talking today. So the first is, I just want to quickly recap what is Siemens all about. So we had a good number of people coming into our booth and they had all this lovely question. Hey, you guys are there in the industry for the long time. How is it that you're still relevant in the digital world today? Like, all those kind of questions. So I thought it's better that we just quickly touch upon what is Siemens all about. The second thing is introduction to Simple. So basically the idea is, I told you, right? Like I want to first bring all this open source concepts within my organization and then transition towards the actual open sourcing part. So to do that, I'm going to showcase you a product within Siemens, which is soon to be out open source, and that is Simple. We'll see what is Simple all about. The next, we will talk about what is the tech stack of Simple, which is basically nothing but just the technical specification and the implementation of Simple. The next part is, we will see how do we actually enrich developer experience. So like, how do we make the lives of developers within our organization simpler, which is one of the essential recipes in order for you to make your product a hit within the community. The next part, we will talk about how do we enrich the community. So see, open source is all about communities, right? All of us are here because we love open source. All of us love open source because open source gives us two options. It is very transparent. You can see what is the project all about, what are they planning, what are they implementing, what is the backlog, so on and so forth, right? And the second thing is, we can also proactively collaborate with them. So we'll see what are the things that we are doing within our organization to kind of build this community. Next, the major part of the topic, which is resonating with the topic today, like how Siemens is actually collaborating and Siemens is actually promoting open source thing within the organization and also actually maintaining and contributing to several of the open source projects. And last, I want you all to take some key takeaways from this case study so that you can go back, think about it and implement the same within your organization. And before we even begin, I also want to say that at the end, we have a lucky draw contest, which I will talk at the end of the session. So please stay tuned. So first, what is Siemens? I'm sure most of you know that Siemens is a 175-year-old German engineering company headquartered in Munich. We have our operations across the world. In India also, we have across several locations. And Siemens operates across different verticals, right? Different industries. So if you see the industrial businesses that we have, these are the few industrial businesses that we have, like digital industries, smart infrastructure, mobility, healthy years, and we also have certain portfolio companies which we acquire and try to fit in one of these industries, right? I'm sure most of you, or at least some of you, would have taken an MRI, and that MRI would be mostly a Siemens. I'm sure most of you would have traveled in a metro. That metro would have had some link with the Siemens. I'm sure most of you are working in offices, and that office would have the building management software of that office would have some connection with Siemens. So Siemens is something that touches our life directly or indirectly every day. Apart from that, in Siemens, we have a division called as Siemens Advanta, to which we all belong. What is Advanta is nothing but it's basically a consultancy arm of Siemens, which provides services to the industries to make them more digital ready. Meaning, I have the physical infrastructure, like I have my factories, I have my automotives and all that stuff. How do I make it digital? How can I combine both of these worlds to create better efficiency? So this is the problem which Siemens Advanta is solving across all the industry sectors. Apart from that, we also have a few services. Services are nothing but the horizontal businesses which kind of work across all the lines. So we have these Siemens Financial Services, Siemens Real Estate and Global Business Services. So with that said, I also said that Siemens also operates across different industries. So basically, as I said, the goal of Advanta or the goal of Siemens as such is to combine your real and digital world and to do that digital transformation. So as you can see, like these are just a snapshot of different industries which we operate. So now let's go back to the same story I said. I said that in an organization you have a lot of silos. What is a silo? It's a different units all working independently of each other. You never know what is happening in unit A or what is happening in unit B. If you want to collaborate with unit B, what is the procedure for it? So why is this issue happening? And to give a very simple example, I can take our own example within Siemens. So as you just saw in the previous slide, we have different verticals, right? So all of them have their own applications, all of them have their own use cases and business problems to solve. So one key issue that arises is at the end of the day to a customer, it's all about Siemens, right? They don't care whether you're smart infrastructure or your mobility or so on. To them, it just means it's a product of Siemens. So a key question that arises is how do I make the product uniform, right? To a user who is using maybe in a mobility industry, to a user who is using in smart buildings, so on and so forth. A very classic example, the login button page, right? I have a login page, I have the user ID, I have the password, I have the login button. How do I make this login button consistent across my application, right? The look and feel should be same. When I click, the animation should be consistent. The text has to be consistent. It has to be accessible. So all these points are something which are the burning issues, right? So when you work in an organization where every unit is kind of doing its own thing, this kind of synergy and synchronization is not generally possible. So what is the solution for this? So that's where we go back and we apply this open source mindset. So what is the open source mindset? I'm sure as open source enthusiasts, all of you know, right? So open source is all about being transparent, as I said earlier. What are the things that you're doing, how you're doing, what are your backlogs, what are your plans? You kind of keep it open, like we let the world know like what we are doing. So that's one thing. Second thing is participation. We actively participate in all the changes, discussions and so on. Third thing, we also have a community, right? Just like all of us are here today. We have a community which we nurture. The community comes to us with feature requests or bug fixes, we go and provide them. The community wants to enhance our product, we welcome their merge request. So that is all the open source mindset which we have to take and imbibe in our organization to make our organization ready for the open source transition. And this thing where we implement the open source within the boundary of any organization is called as inner sourcing, right? Inner sourcing basically means you take the open source principles, implement it in your organization within the boundaries of your organization, make it as open source as possible, and then you take the relevant bits of those things that you have implemented and contribute back to the open source world. So that is what this talk is all about. And before we proceed, I also want to say that Siemens is already a maintainer and a contributor to several open source projects. I'm sure most of you would have heard about GitLab. So Siemens has 8 most valued professionals in the GitLab open source community. We also have a lot of projects in open source world which we are maintaining on our own. If you just go to our github.com/Siemens, you will find the list of all the projects which are there, which we are currently maintaining and contributing. So with that said, I'm going to talk about a product today which we have not still open sourced. It is in the transition of getting open sourced. So that I just want to share you the recipe. What is it that it takes to take a product, build it within your organization, make it successful, and kind of take it to the open source world. And for that, we have this Simple. So what is Simple? Simple is nothing but Siemens mobile and web platform. Simple is basically, you can say it's a group of projects all bulked under this name of Simple. So Simple it's basically a front-end focused application. So basically, you have different modules within or different projects within Simple. You have Element, which is our design system. We have Element Mobile, which is focused only on the native application. You also have certain utilities like Trend Chart Viewer, Maps, which are focusing on the specific use cases of your industry. So say for example, we have real-time use cases where We want to track where a particular thing is going. So we have a library which is maps, which kind of gives you a uniform experience. Similarly, we also have developer-friendly tools, like we have linters, we have accessibility tools, we have visual regression testing, all of that based as utilities. So you as a developer, when you want to start a new project within Siemens, you don't really have to bother, okay, now what should I take? Should I take Angular material? Should I take Bootstrap? Or should I take those? You don't really have to reinvent the wheel. That's the whole point. You just take simple, you just bootstrap it with our handy CLI, and that's it. Your application is up and running, all conforming to the Siemens brand guidelines. It is accessible, it is responsive, and all the best practices out of the box. That's the whole promise of what the simple is all about. As is, we always speak about what is like does it mean to collaborate between different units. So basically what simple does is we have a uniform UI and UX experience for the end user. As I said, the example of login button, right? So if you use a simple element design system and you use the button class, you are ensuring that the same button stays consistent across all the applications. You don't really have to bother, hey, is my button of the correct specification, is the color proper, and all those things. Once you use a class, it is always consistent throughout. So the next thing, why I'm talking about simple, that's the bigger point, right? You may ask, oh, there are hundreds of applications, why you are just picking simple? So the beauty of simple is, to the date, we have more than 1,500 projects within Siemens, which have implemented simple. So it is one of the largest open source product within Siemens. All of them are live in production, used across various industries, and we have seen some good success using simple across different domains. So that's the reason I thought I will take simple as an example and show you like what does it take to really transition from inner sourcing to outer sourcing, open sourcing, sorry. So what is the recipe of simple? So if I have to give you a playbook, like, if you are starting a product or you want to start a community of some engaging, vibrant development. So what is the recipe that it really takes to kind of make it vibrant? So the first thing is optimize the utilization of OSS and COTS. What is OSS? Open source software. What is COTS? Commercial off the shelf. Commercial off the shelf means all the paid products that you get from the market. So it's very important that you kind of try to make a fine-tuned balance between the open source available options and the commercial off the shelf option. So that is very important. As much as possible, try to tend towards open source. Where it is not possible or you feel the efforts or the other things are too heavy, go for commercial off the shelf. So the balance is very important. The next part, how do you integrate with your ecosystem? So in our case, for simple, we have to ensure that whatever technology stack that we are taking, whatever the tools that we are using, it has to integrate perfectly with the existing ecosystem. It should not be like, for example, if my developers are into say Java, right? And of the late, I just all of a sudden decide to put some .NET thing in my application. That doesn't work. We have to ensure that the existing ecosystem is perfectly fine-tuned and accepting whatever things that I am putting in or introducing in. The third is tailor-made enhancement. So as I said, right, we operate across different industries. So each industry has its own kind of requirements and nitty-gritties. So we have to ensure that whatever the utilities or whatever features that we provide are tailor-made to those particular sections. So say for example, I'll give you a simple example. We have something called as a filtered search. So what is a filtered search? You have kind of a type ahead component. You just go on and you can filter across various categories. So this is a component which is kind of used across the industry. So what is our work in the simple? We ensure that it stays uniform with the help of our UX designers, and we implement it in a way that it can be reused across any technologies. The next is you provide the various tools and latest best practices to your developers so that they churn out only the best code possible. See, ultimately, no matter how advanced tools that you use, it's all boils down to what code you have written. So we always ensure within simple and also like in our community, we are always following the best practices possible. So for example, we have linters, we have kind of accessibility tools, we have code formatters and all those kind of things, which ensures that you are following the best practices from the scratch, right? Then we also, the other key thing that is important for a successful product is we have to share and collaborate transparently within the Siemens or your organization. So what does that mean? As I said, Unit A is working on a project, Unit B is working on project, but we really don't know because most of the time each unit keeps their repository private, right? It's not open to even the organization people. So that is where within Siemens we also have another successful inner source product called as code.siemens.com. So what is code.siemens.com? It's basically a CI/CD platform. It is a repository hosted on GitLab where each unit have to create their repository and keep it internal. So anyone within Siemens who has a valid Siemens login ID, they can actually go and search for their particular project and see what is getting implemented. So this is very important. Why? two things. One thing, everyone in your organization knows like what is getting implemented, right? So people don't have to really reinvent the wheel every time. Second thing, if I'm say interested in say XYZ technology or tool which you are already developing, I might probably come and tell you that, hey, I have this idea which I want to implement. Does it really fit into your product? If yes, cool, raise the MR and we'll see how it goes. So those are the benefits which you get by collaborating and being transparent within your organization. The next thing is an extension to this, as I said. So since we create a repository internally with internal permissions, so any employee within the Siemens can actually see the source code of whatever tools we are using. So say with respect to Simple, all the Simple tools, all the Simple applications, we have inner sourced it, meaning any developer within Siemens can actually go see the source code, what we have written, understand, utilize the best practices and implement it. Conversely, it's also possible that if they feel something is not properly implemented, they can go back and also raise a pull request which kind of fixes that bug or maybe add a new request. So even those things are possible. The next thing, promoting modularity and minimizing dependency. So what it means, see, all of us have this bad habit, right? Whenever we want to implement something really quickly, we don't really think what is the cost of including that package in our application. Like, it could be as small as jQuery or something as big as maybe your, like, the datetime modules and all the moment.js and those kind of stuff. So the one thing which we always ensure within Simple is we only take the libraries which are actually required by the application team, and we also ensure that the customer can pick and choose what he requests. So it's not like, just to implement one feature, you have to really take a package of 1 MB or 2 MB. We try to keep it like, as modular, as small as possible so that your application is more efficient and faster. The next thing is we also offer a complete and optional client-side architecture which is adaptable to use. What I mean by that, so as I said, we also have, along with Simple Element, we also have something called Element Mobile. So there are various scenarios where, like, you might want to implement a project which is just for web application, which could be just for mobile application, it could be just for your desktop application, it could be a hybrid application. So based on the scenarios you have, using our Simple generator, which is another utility we have, we could actually generate, like, the files and architecture which are just customized and tailored to that. So you can actually, my friend Akash will show it to you in the demo section, like how we really do it. So you can just pick and choose the things that you need and build on top of it. So what is the tech stack of Simple? So we have talked enough about Simple. I said Simple is like, a bunch of different projects having design systems, tools and utilities. So how does Simple actually gets implemented? So this is a high level overview of how Simple gets implemented. For the web platform, I'm sure most of you are aware of the stack, right? We basically have a browser on which our application runs. Then for Simple, what we have done is we have used the Bootstrap, we have used Angular, combined it together and customized our code on top of it. So that's where Simple comes in. The Simple provides you all the Siemens specific customized code, tools and utilities. And on top of it, you will be then building your customer application. So in case of Siemens, we have tons of products available in the market. So for the UI and all the web application for those products get built on top of your Simple. Similarly for mobile, it's more or less the similar stack. The only difference is since now it is mobile, we have also this native plugin coming in between along with your web view. And on top of it, instead of Bootstrap, we use Ionic, because Ionic is an open source project which is kind of helpful to build your native applications. And then on top of that, you have your Simple Element mobile design system on top of it, which you implement your applications. So now I hand it over to my friend Akash, who will talk about what is the developer experience thing that we focus on and take it from there.
Can you hear me now? Okay. So thanks, Lakshmi. Myself, Akash. I have a total of 8 years of experience working with Siemens, and currently I work with this amazing project called Simple, which is the largest inner source platform in Siemens. As Lakshmi already explained, Simple is kind of in transition phase from inner source to open source, and we try to implement all the principles of open source, best practices from the open source while working with Simple. So one of the important thing that comes to your mind is developer experience. So what is DX? DX is actually kind of user experience but meant for developers. That means whenever developer are interacting with your tools, your project, maybe your libraries or any other tooling system, they should have a good experience working with it. At Simple also we try to take care of this. We try to improve the developer experience. Today I have listed down some of the things that we do in this area. I will try to do a quick demo of what this means. So first thing is generator. So we have our own simple CLI and simple generator, as we call it. What this does is actually developer can bootstrap their project from scratch, also with some templates. He can post or publish this on his Code Siemens repo, and also using the GitLab pages he can make this website active. All this within a span of like 15 minutes. So you see, this is very powerful generator that we have. So for the stakeholders, if you have to show something within span of 15 minutes or so, you can basically showcase all these things. So you don't have to worry on the processes, tooling, all the stuff are taken care by the simple, and you can focus more on your actual work. So let's quickly see a demo about this. So you have to do some initial setup, which I have already done on my machine. That is some one-time setup that won't take much time. But to initialize the generator, you just have to put some commands. So let's say yo simple. What this does is it initializes the generator. It will ask you for certain templates which you want to create. So you have web application, you have mobile application, desktop application, and library. So let's go with web application. So yeah, there were some options that you have to select, like web application, library, mobile application, that you can select to choose. So I have selected the simple web application. As you can see, I will select this element design system or element web components that we have, then there is options to select a starter project or a blank project. Starter project comes up with certain templates. Let's go with that. Then you have options to select fixed height or scroll. If your content doesn't fit in one screen, you can basically go with the scroll. Otherwise, you can basically select the fixed height. Then just give some name. We'll give OSS India, some description. And this is kind of a best practice to give your Git repo. So this is how you can link your actual generated project to your Git repo. So let's quickly try that. So we have this amazing platform called codesiemens.com. So you can basically create a project from here. You can give some name, OSS India 2023. I'll select my scope. Seems the internet is not working. So anyway, I have already created one project for the exact same purpose. So this is how I have hosted or created this repo on codesiemens.com. Once you link your GitLab project, it will start downloading all your dependencies. It will basically create on the left hand side. You can see your project is getting generated. It will take time. We won't see it working because in the interest of time we'll just skip it. But main thing here is you can see in the packages, and we try to follow all the principle of open sources. That means we have some pre-selected libraries from packages that are recommended in open source, such as we have some tooling for testing. We are using Cypress. Then all other things such as for translation, CDK, all those stuff is already included and pre-selected for you. So the developer don't have to basically worry about this. We also have our CI/CD pipeline integrated with this. So when you, after this installation, when you post or publish this to your repo, you will get this stage where you can see all your code being published on this repo. Then it comes with the pipeline. As I said, in the pipeline you can see certain sections related to tests. We have stages for end-to-end testing, which is using Cypress. We have some test stages. In the publish test, we have something related to publishing this as a GitLab pages. Just this one. This is kind of a generated project. In our actual project, we also have some additional tests, which I would like to show you. So these are the pipeline. This is how it is built. So we have stages for design system, where we built our documentation related to our element design system. We have our library test. Then in the test section, we have the accessibility stages. We also have VRT, which is visual regression testing. In the deploy section, we actually deploy this accessibility reports as well as the test coverage reports. So all these best practices we try to follow it in simple. Okay, so I have already opened this GitLab page. So this is how your application looks like after you publish and open this GitLab page. So here you see we have already some templates where we have footers, navigation bars, some things related to legal and corporate stuff, information stuff. So all the developer has to do basically add his own logic here and showcase to his stakeholders, whoever it is. So all this can be possible within just span of 10 to 15 minutes. It's just possible. So it's pretty amazing. This is how we try to give a good experience to the developers. So next up, let's move on to the next. Yeah, so in the UX Figma, we also have this Figma designs. We have a great UX team with us, which actually publishes this UX designs as a Figma specs, and the developer has access to those. They can actually check for any requirement while developing any component. They can refer to this UX Figma and then directly start working with it. Cool. So then we have an amazing documentation. As we grew up with our components, we do maintain a quite good documentation. So this is our documentation page. As you can see it, in the overview section, we have some things related to how to getting started with the documentation. We then have fundamentals like typography, colors, some things related to spacing. All these guidelines are published here. Then we have different components ranging from smaller components like buttons to very complex components such as filter search. We have trend viewer to view the chart data. All those stuff is included here. In the documentation, as you can see, we have different tabs. So users tab is actually related to your UX guideline on how to use this component. And if there is any other UX guideline, all this specified in this tab. Then we have legal guidelines related to certain components. And in the code section, this is of mainly focused for the developers. So how they can actually integrate this component in their product. So all this information related modules which you have to import, all this stuff goes on into this tab. Then we also maintain good documentation about the APIs that we expose. If you come down here, so we have the documentation related to input properties, the APIs, output properties, all those stuff goes on here. In the documentation, we try to build storytelling, like we try to cover different use cases where this component can be used. And we also have some playgrounds to play around with certain different components or configurations. We have our own live previewer, with which the live previewer is very powerful, with which you can actually try to play around with your component on the go. You can make some configurations. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. So this is the documentation and this is our live previewer. So to show you quickly, developer can basically change the title. Let's say I say it is OSS India, and you see it is getting reflected directly on your page. So this is how with different inputs, outputs, all this configuration, you can basically test this application or this component. This is particularly useful when you have to report certain bugs or test out new features. This you can do on the go. And the live previewer also comes up with very vast features, so such that you can test the translation. You can change the language from E to German or French. Then you can also test the left to right navigation or page layouts like this. We can also integrate it with the dark mode and light mode. With this you can see this. And another handy tool is like you can copy this change as a link URL. You can send it to your colleague, or maybe designers also can send it to the developers if they want to test how this look, and the same thing will be reflected at his end. So as you can see, I changed this to OSS India and it is copied as a link, and you can basically send it over. So this is how it is very powerful tool in a way, and it improves the developer experience a lot. Okay, so that's it about the documentation. Let's move on to the next point. So we'll talk about the community in next slide. It's already covered. So QA pipeline and best practices, as I already showed you, we have different stages for VRTs, accessibility tests, all those goes in here. Then we have the GitLab page prototype, which again I have showed you, where you can publish your website. So next slide is enriching community. So open source is or inner source is all about community, and at Simple we try to engage people more and more by various means. One of the aspects is Hangout. So we conduct Hangouts every month, and in that we try to do some knowledge sharing. We from Simple team present what are the recent updates. Maybe it is Angular upgrade, latest Angular version upgrade, or if there is any Simple version coming up next, all those update or any new feature or bugs fixed, all those stuff we give as update from the Simple side. We also get interactions from the product teams. They show how they are using our components in this meeting. They do some live demos. It is also a good platform for us to identify certain new simple components or reusable components, as we say it, if it has potential to be used across other teams or other projects in the organization. So in a way it is very engaging meeting. We then have another very support channels through which community can reach us. So we have this Yammer or Viva Engage, which is our internal group, and people can reach out or post their queries on them, and the Simple team is actually quite fast to approach or answer those questions. And yeah, we are also on the Teams, Microsoft Teams. We have Microsoft Teams channels, and there also people post queries. Again, people can also reach out to us with our code Siemens issues. If they have some issues where they can post it in details, all the stuff is possible. We have these support channels, and as I said, not only the Simple team, the community is also active to help each other. If they know certain issues or some answers, they also help out on each other in this aspect. Next is workshops. So at Simple we conduct regular workshops ranging from some basic topics to very advanced topics. So we had workshops on how to use CSS effectively in your project now, and recently we had a workshop on advanced Angular, advanced TypeScript. All those topics we try to cover in this workshop. So idea here is to increase the competency in the community, because as we grow up we want everyone to be on the same page with respect to new technology with features in Angular or any other web technology. So this is the main goal of the workshop, and we see quite a good number of engagement in this. And last but not least, we have contributions coming back. So our community knows it is important to contribute back to Simple. So whenever they develop any new component, they try to analyze if it has potential to be a simple component or reusable component, and they try to contribute it back to Simple. Also, they support us in terms of various issues. If they know in any component they are using or any component that is available with the Simple. So that is how we engage with the community. I hope this is pretty clear. So with that, I will again hand over to Lex to conclude some of the last slides. Thank you, everyone.
Discussing now is how does Siemens actually contribute to open source world. We have talked enough about how do we make the transformation within the organization. Now the point is like, what is it that we're actually doing in the open source world that is of interest to all of us, right? So the first thing, recently in the May this year, we released our manifesto, which is the open source manifesto. You can just access this link, which is opensource.siemens.com. So there we have clearly mentioned what is the values and what is the mission that we have kind of enshrined within our organization with respect to open source. So an example of that would be like if we are using an open source library or a tool within our organization and we find that some things are lacking within it. So say for example, I find that there's a feature missing or there's a bug which needs to be fixed. Instead of me just waiting for the community to fix it, I will enable my developers to go and actually raise a pull request to that particular open source project and fix it. So all these kind of manifesto is what is given in this open source manifesto. Probably I could just quickly show it to you as well. So this is the site, as I said, opensource.siemens.com. So here if you see that these are the things that we are kind of trying to promote within our organization with respect to the open source. So what it essentially means is Siemens as an organization is actively kind of promoting the usage of open source software and also kind of trying to kind of encourage the development and enhancement of these open source projects. So the second thing that we have is, as I said earlier, GitLab is one of the respected and famous open source projects in the world, which is used for automated CI/CD pipeline, DevOps operation. So Siemens have 8 MVPs who are active contributors to GitLab. So what does that mean? A few of the features within GitLab that you're using right now might came from one of these guys. The next thing, as I also said earlier, we also are contributors and maintainers of some of the open source projects that we have. So if you just go to github.com/Siemens, you'll find a list of projects where Siemens is actually maintaining these open source projects and actively contributing to it as well. The next thing that we just recently started in September last year, which I feel might create some interest as well, we have actively started to even sponsor the open source projects which are of relevance to us. So what does it mean to the community? So if you have an open source project which you are hosting in your part-time maybe, which is of immense importance to the industry, maybe Siemens for example, right? So what we actually do is we reach out to the author and we say that, hey, we'll give you XYZ amount of money. Please use it and try to enhance this product or this tool based on the requirements of the community. So it's a win-win situation, right? The organization gets what is required, and also for the author it is kind of redeemable, meaning like he or she gets the amount that he or she is actually eligible for. The next thing, which is kind of the conclusion of our talk. So what are the key takeaways that you can actually take with you at the end of this session? So the first thing, as we saw, always ensure that you foster collaboration within your organization through open source mindset. It should not be that your unit is working in silo, other unit is working in silo. We should break the silos. Keep the data, keep the processes, keep the knowledge sharing as transparent and as collaborative as possible. Use the open source mindset in this scenario. The next thing is focus on developer experience. I'm sure when Akash showed you all this CLIs, generator tools and other stuff that we do. So what is the end result of it? If your developer is really happy with your product, he or she will actually use it and even promote it within the organization, right? So that's how you gain this traction. The next thing, you create an active and vibrant community within your organization. So as we already said by Akash, we have meetups, we have workshops, we do periodic connects, we have support channels on Yammer, Teams and other mediums. So through this, we actually create a collaborative and vibrant community within this organization, which ensures that your product lives for a certain period of time. Because usually what happens, a new product comes within the organization, a few people use it and then the hype dies down and that's it. Neither it is maintained nor it is carried forward. And last but not the least, once you have implemented all this successfully within the realms of your organization, you've seen that yes, this is battle tested and it is ready for the open outer world. Take the relevant part of it, open source it. So that's how we also give it back to the community. And if you are interested to contact us, we are right here at the booth number CA3, which is just the second booth on the left outside this hall. These are our LinkedIn profiles. Should you wish to connect with us, we'll be happy for that. The next, if you want to just see what are the things that Siemens does in the open source world, this is the URL which we saw in the previous slide. And finally, if you are also interested to see like what is Siemens Advanta all about, which I said is a consulting firm and helps you with your digitalization journey, this is our website. And finally, if you are interested also to apply for some active positions, please go to this link. And now coming to the part where I said we also have a lucky draw, right? So there are some perks when you share what you learned, right? So what I want you to do today is take a selfie of yourself either during this talk or in our Siemens booth. So it should be like a community thing, right? You and us. It's not just you or just us, right? Both of us. Take a selfie with either you and in the background our booth or during this talk, and upload it post it in your LinkedIn profile, right? And tag it using the hashtag of Siemens Advanta and #simple. Once you do that, let your LinkedIn family do the work for you. make them like, subscribe, and comment on it. What is your key takeaway from this session that we had today? It could be 1 point, it could be 2 point, it could be your understanding of how do we transition from this inner sourcing to open sourcing? How do we transform the organization mindset? I just want you to post what is your key takeaway from this session. And the post that gets the highest engagement, like in terms of the like, share, repost, and all that stuff, we will pick one lucky winner out of that lot, and the winner will get a surprise goodie from us at our booth, which is just the second one from here. And the winner will be announced at 6 p.m. We will be contacting them through their LinkedIn profile. So thank you, and thanks for your time. And I hope it's time for lunch. So have a good lunch as well. Thank you.